Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unsung. This one's going to be a little bit different because we are recording not at the studio, so forgive the sound if it doesn't sound quite up to snuff. It doesn't have Russell's touch on it. We're going to do a monologue because as much as I hate to avoid topical things because I think they're being covered and beat to death, I think I can't avoid this anymore. We are in a situation now where it is unprecedented what we're getting hit with here with the corona response, the virus and the response, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say something about this because I talked to a lot of people. A lot of people come to me and they ask me for guidance. They think I'm smarter than I am, and this is uncharted waters in many ways. But I'm just watching people deal with it, and I'm watching normally competent people overreact and not behave in a rational way, and that really scares me. It scares me more than this virus. It's a classic thing of the response is more than the actual incident. So in an effort to help dissuade that, the spreading of bad information that's spreading faster than the virus because it's going through the internet and people aren't fact-checking anything, and I'm sure there are things I'm wrong about with this. And there's generalizations that I'm making, but overall I'd have to say that while there is a danger, of course, and most of the things they're telling us to do are things that I really, really think that I'm glad people are going to do them. I'm sorry about the way it had to happen, but we should have been doing these things. We should be raised to do these things. I was raised to do these things, and I think a lot of people were, but it seems to be more and more people aren't. Washing their hands. Something as simple as washing your hands. When did that stop being a best practice? They now have come up with the phrase social distancing because no old phrases are good enough. Everything has to be watered down and made less offensive. So it's social distancing now. Well, that's just respecting people's personal space. And if you do these things all the time, then a lot of this gets minimized. And one of the things that just drove me nuts with this whole process is, I've always had this, when you're sitting at a restaurant or a diner, and I understand the wait staff's duty and how it is impacted by the location of their tables and all. But it was always frustrating to me that you'd be in a place empty trying to talk to somebody and they'd bring in somebody and sit them in the booth right behind you. And I always felt like skip a booth, so that everybody can keep their conversation and their fluids and their germs or whatever private. But now that's a thing. Now we've progressed or digressed far enough that that's actually a thing. So in the line of best practices, there's a couple things. The unsung part of it is I wanted to just talk a little bit before I go into the best practices about the people that are just holding it together during this, the people that are going out and doing their jobs, and all those people that are just doing these silent, courageous acts of just towing the line, and they never get enough credit. And if I mention people during the course of a conversation and I don't mention somebody, it's not because I'm excluding them, it's because I can't remember everybody. But you just think about all the things you have to do, all the things to hold the normalcy together. Your lights on, your water working, the internet working, all those things, and the people behind the scenes. And then the people that are more up in your face at the stores, the grocery stores, the pharmacies, the corner grocery stores, and some of the chain the corner markets that we used to go to that still exist, and they're great. They hold neighborhoods together, because when something like this happens, we see people that are we spend things and we buy stuff from the internet. Well, those places can have whatever they have that impacts them, and now we haven't supported our local stores enough, and those guys aren't there, and we can't get anything. That's why you have to support your local stores. At least give them a percentage of your money, because those big stores aren't going to sponsor your local baseball teams. They're not going to help the neighborhood directly. And if something happens, you want to be able to walk down the street and get something. That's why those stores are so very valuable. They hold neighborhoods together. Places don't have neighborhoods, and many places don't. They have communities, which are different, don't understand that. But neighborhoods make it through things like this because they're neighborhoods, and that's part of the whole thing. Getting gas in your vehicle, getting your medicines, getting all those things just go back to essential services. Essential services, and people don't think about this, but it's a funny thing. You have your essential services, and essential services are those jobs that really they add to, they're part of public safety, public welfare, and keeping everything moving. They're those essential things. Transportation, emergency services, your various levels of protection, your medical, your food, your repair, utility, infrastructure, all those things. Now, I'm not slamming anybody here, but if you think about what we consider essential services, those are people typically on the other end of the pay scales. The jobs we pay people six figures for and everything, they don't come in line when everything gets tough like this. They're not what we're thinking about. We're not thinking about bankers and lawyers. We're thinking about the guy behind the counter at the convenience store, because we need him. And those are what we need in a pinch. These other manufacturer jobs, they're not what we need in a pinch. And people need to remember that after this event is over, and start appreciating and putting the focus where it should be, on the right people doing the right jobs that are there to help us. So, that being said, these essential employees, I'd like to thank all of them, and all the ones that have become essential employees by the necessity we've created for doing their job and being there and pushing through, while other people are saying, oh, I can't meet face-to-face. I can't do face-to-face now. That being said, couple things. I jotted down some notes on things people had asked me. Social distancing, does that help? Absolutely. It helps just from spreading germs in general. How long should we do that for? I think we should do it forever. I think it should become a common practice. There's no need to be crowded. I was in a store the other day, and I was pleased to see people were properly spaced in line. They were spaced like 2 carts apart, versus this thing where you turn around and the person's right behind you. You can feel them breathing. I am so glad that that's at an end. That's great. The virus, people have asked how long it stays alive on a surface. It stays alive. They're saying stainless steel and plastic, 3 days. 4 hours on copper, 24 hours on cardboard, aerosols floating around, 3 hours. So just keep that in mind when cleaning services and practicing best practices. Unnecessary doctor's trips, yeah, you should probably skip them. My dentist told me we're not going to be seeing each other for a while. and dental things especially, it's lots of fluids involved, and it's just an unnecessary risk. Is this more contagious than the flu? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The statistics are showing that it's a little bit more contagious, which makes it more of a risk. And we have an at-risk population should be protected. We should focus on them. Can people have this and not show symptoms? Absolutely. That's one of the bad things about it. Treat everybody as if they have it, but respectfully, and don't panic. We don't want to get a situation where the reaction to it, and that's where we're going. The reaction is worse than the actual thing. Keep it under control. Protect yourself. What are the symptoms? Fever, dry cough, difficulty breathing. Now we have to keep in mind that while this is going on, we are in flu season, we are in cold season, and we're in allergy season. They've all merged together. So just keep in mind that you're more than likely having those things. You know, I always start out with, treat it like an allergy to start out with. See if a daytime allergy medicine will alleviate what's bothering you. And if it does, then you're good. The average population is 60 and older with severe chronic illnesses. So protect them. And the primary method of this spreading is respiratory droplets through coughs, sneezes, and spittle. Okay, so in case you didn't know, don't put your fluids on anybody else, and don't let anybody put their fluids on you. I mean, this is a thing. I'm seeing brochures and pamphlets and getting dozens of emails about this. We should know that. You can also get it by touching your face after touching infected surfaces. Avoid touching your face unless you've protected your hands or cleaned them in between. I see the little bit that's known about this thing. It likes heat, hates cold, seems to dwell more in the nasal cavities and stuff like that. So you don't want to get it near there. And washing your hands 20 seconds minimum with soap. Rinse vigorously. Wash like you're going into surgery without going nuts. You don't have to go up to your elbows, but just wash your hands. The hand sanitizers work well if you're getting 60% alcohol or above. I think the standard is 60% that you see on most of them out there. Less than that doesn't really help. Use those. Those will help you. Those will lessen the chance of transmission to your face. And when you're doing that, there are ways you can make your own with 91% alcohol and aloe vera and other things. Diluted bleach can help. Very diluted bleach. It's, a few tablespoons to a gallon of water. Vinegar has helped. There's natural antiseptics that help very well. Is there a vaccine? No, there isn't. They're working on it, but that could be a year. We've got to find a way to deal with this now. And the problem is people can potentially get the flu and corona at the same time and get the things confused. People say, do I need to wear a face mask? Not if you're healthy. You shouldn't have to. Depends on your exposure to other people. People in emergency services work and medical services that are constantly dealing with people, the risk is a little bit more. The average person doesn't deal with as many people as they used to anyway, so it shouldn't impact them. I was noticing how many people I know that weren't impacted by this whole quarantine. It seems like we've got a generation here that are in a state of self-quarantine already by getting everything via the internet and communicating with people electronically. It's fascinating how much has changed. Supplies, yeah, you should always have food in your house. You should always have enough food to go a week, 10 days. People usually keep 3 days or less now. While I'm a huge fan of toilet paper, I don't think people need to be buying bales of it and putting it on the roof of their car like it's end of days. There's no association with this virus and needing toilet paper. Without getting graphic, it doesn't impact people in that way. It's more of a respiratory thing. It's more of a top thing than a bottom thing. So don't worry about it. Stop buying all the toilet paper. Now the thing is, people have been trying to return the toilet paper, and the stores are taking it back. And I can't say I blame them. You know, you can't return toilet paper. It shouldn't be returned. It's just, it was a bad mistake you make. Yeah, you made. You want to make your own antiseptic, 91% alcohol, 2/3 of that, 1/3 aloe vera. Mix it up, and you've got your own. You can add oils and such to make it smell the way you want to without going nuts, but you've got your own at that point. Be careful with the hand sanitizers, though, the microbacterial ones, because there are good bacteria that live on your hands, and overuse can hurt those bacteria. Just use it enough, come up with your routine, but you don't have to do it obsessively. Just do it, just have a routine. What's going to happen next? We're going to see this thing is going to skyrocket, and it's going to skyrocket not necessarily because it's worse, but because we're going to have more data. More tests will come back because there are more tests now. More people will test positive. The numbers will go up. So just be patient. Take the news with a grain of salt. Don't saturate yourself with the news. You don't focus on what's best for you and what's healthy. Don't work yourself too hard, and pace yourself through this thing. If you're sick, you can't help others, and I'm sure there's somebody dependent on you. Stay home if you have to, and work from home if you have to. Single best way to prevent this thing is just hand washing. Can't emphasize that enough. Stay at home and rest. Saying these things multiple times because they should be said. Should you? This has come up. This is why I'm saying it. Don't laugh. Should you spray yourself or your children or your pets with disinfectants? No, don't do that. It's a bad thing. There's other chemicals in there that you don't want on a living creature. So don't spray yourself down with disinfectants. That's not a good thing. The majority of them are more for objects than they are for people. There are no evidence that home remedies can stop this. Holistic things can help as long as you get ahead of the curve with them and you're using them regularly and you're behaving yourself in other ways. But as far as actually stopping them, no, this is already ahead of it. Is this a survivable thing? Absolutely. This is absolutely survivable. It's been blown out of proportion in many ways by the media because just we have this news cycle where everybody wants to outshock and outscare us, and we're seeing things 10, 20 times a day. So just take with a grain of salt. If why is it taking so long? Because we run things through rigorous tests here in this country to make sure they're safe for people. And sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's the best way to be. And I think we do a decent job most of the time with that in our testing. That's why we have less people that are hurt by our pharmaceuticals. I guess I'm trying to think of other things people have asked me about it. They've asked if if it impacts our response in emergency services. No, and it makes it careful. And search and rescue is different. We're dealing with people at different stages of stuff. We've just got to practice the same cautions we've always practiced, and just be diligent. That's what you do in these times. And and you kind of press on. We have this thankfully isn't impacting younger people as much as some things have in the past, but there's just not enough data yet, and there will be soon. There will be actual data that we can quantify and see how it's impacting things. But right now, we're just throwing information out there, and we're just getting too much of it. The basis of all this is everybody, I'm sure, is well intentioned, but they are scaring people. We're tougher than this. We've been through worse. 100 years ago, they had outbreaks, the same thing. These things are cyclical. It's the nature of the planet. It's the nature of nature. And it's, do smart things, make smart decisions, avoid crowds, of course. I mean, without being completely antisocial, avoid crowds as much as you can. Sanitize whatever you can. Spittle, sneezing, coughing, airborne liquids from other people. Well, we should always avoid them. And I would say that a really big thing about this is the employer's aspect of it, and for employees that are suddenly find themselves without work, and I know a bunch of people like that, unfortunately. You can't, if you have it, I don't believe they can fire you. I think it might be an OSHA violation to make you work in an environment where it is, and the companies really should do something to consider special circumstances of this and update things so that people have different opportunities. Don't just send people home. We're causing a trickle-down effect that is basically going to cascade and go into the summer. People are going to lose money. They're going to lose property. I see so much talk about this. I see so many people saying all these different things and speculating. There's some core things I can tell you is that I've seen a lot of talk, but I haven't seen a whole lot from the people that are going to benefit from it. The banks with foreclosures or their made-up late fees, which they completely make up. They don't need to sustain themselves. There's just extra gravy for them on top of higher interest rates. And here we go. They're going to be charging that. If the government wants to help with something, there's a bunch of things. Where we are, the governor declared a state of emergency. What we could have done right away, is say, when you're taking restaurants, you're making them go to takeout only. Then instead of putting them out of business, instantly cancel the sales tax and let them keep the sales tax and put that into lost business and keeping their workers on. We've got to keep people working. If people want to work, we've got to keep them working. And they could do other things with waiving fees for registrations, licensing, and stuff like that. Help the small business owner. Help them sustain themselves. and help them to get through this. We could do other things. Employers can reassign people in jobs, catch up on different things. Hospitality industry, catch up on getting the rooms ready for the spring. Do all that housekeeping and stuff that you don't get to normally do, and do that in a crunch. Keep your people employed as long as possible. It doesn't help anybody. If those people are out of work, they'll find other places. They won't come back to you. Treat your employees right, and treat your employers right. You got to stick together in this. You can't say that you're there for each other and not be there. You got to stick together. So don't go nuts. Don't beat yourself up over this. Don't put yourself at risk. Travel. I'm not a big one on travel, so I'm the wrong guy to ask, but I think it's a crazy time to travel. You should cancel or rebook if you've got something scheduled. This thing has a relatively low mortality rate. You can get by it, and basically, I would say if you practice safe, best adult practices, and with this new social distancing, which has been around forever, it's just got a name, so I guess it's new now, you should minimize your chance of getting it. That doesn't put you in the clear, but it puts you closer to being there. And again, thanks to everybody, and I mean everybody out there, who goes to work, who does their job, who keeps the world moving through this and through other things. And all those people who do those courageous things. And I won't say heroic, but I'll say courageous, because I think the word hero is overused. But those people do those courageous things. Maybe we need to think about thanking them, and maybe their bosses should think about giving them a little more money when this is over, because they were on the front line, and the front line changes depending on the battle. But this definitely is a battle, and they've definitely been on the front line for all of us. So that being said, thank you all for listening. I hope you got something from this. I normally don't do shows on topics that'll be dated. This show will be dated, hopefully soon, and never needed again. And even though he's not here, and he actually called to see where I was twice, but I'm not in the studio with Russell, I'm going to say what I always say at the end of the show, because it's ended up what I've said, and I'll just do it without him. But the last words you guys hear are, hit the button, Russell.